The collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank even sent shockwaves across the ocean, especially with Chinese tech firms which had for years used the bank's services to do business in the US.
The level of embedded involvement that Silicon Valley Bank has sort of at the core of innovation. And, obviously, even though innovation is a global phenomenon, one of the big drivers of that engine is Silicon Valley, and 50% of Silicon Valley resides pretty much at Silicon Valley Bank. And so I think for any global startup, global venture capital firm, even limited partner looking at venture capital firms or looking at startups, you're kind of inextricably linked to this large institution that's at the core of that industry.
The deposits of those Chinese firms are safe.
I instructed my team to act quickly to protect these interests.
In what many have called an extraordinary move, the Biden administration guaranteed that SVB customers would have access to all their capital. Chinese startups have for a long time relied on Silicon Valley Bank for venture capital funding and general banking in this country, especially as more traditional US banks turned them away, claiming the risk was too high. This economist says it may prove difficult for Chinese startups to find other banking options.
U.S. banks are much more cautious in their foreign relationships. They worry about know your customer clauses, anti-money laundering. Political risk between the U.S. and China is growing. And this was always a bank that was really, really eager and willing to partner with Chinese firms and help bring them to the U.S. Can you find new management at this bank or another bank that will be as so amenable? And I think the concern is it might be hard to find. Certainly the large US banks don't look ready to take those kinds of risks.
In the fallout from SPV's collapse, banking could be a barrier to other Chinese companies that want access to US capital markets.
The fear or concern is, depending on who buys them, are they still going to be in business? Is there another bank that can play this role of kind of introducing Chinese firms to US markets, to US capital markets?
Some economists fear that the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank could trigger a wider contagion. They'll be watching next week's Federal Reserve Bank meeting to see if it backs off its aggressive interest rate rises in favor of boosting confidence in the US financial sector. Jody, CGTN, New York.